Now, the greatest radio shows of all time.
Suspense.
The Shadow Node.
Washington calling David Harding, counter-spy.
Classic radio theater.
The Great Gildersleeve.
Fibber McGee and Molly.
Dragnet. Gunsmoke.
The Lone Ranger.
Now, step back into a time machine with your host, Wyatt Cox.
Good evening, friends of the Inner Sanctum.
If you are a fan of spooky shows, no doubt you will enjoy this one. It is a show that is very, very rarely known. It comes from Oklahoma City. It was on NBC at like 10 o'clock at night, and it's entitled Dark Fantasy. Now, this edition of the program, entitled The Curse of the Neanderthal, was originally broadcast January 2nd, 1942.
Dark Fantasy.
I am the Neanderthal man.
Operator? Are you there, operator?
She's probably gone out for a spot of tea.
Or a date with one of the music hall boys.
You people be quiet.
Isn't she pretty when she's excited, Hayes?
Oh, quiet.
Operator. Operator.
Why would anyone be so anxious to call one's sister anyway?
I can't for the life of me imagine.
Will you two please go take a walk or something? Operator, are you there?
You could write your sister a letter, you know, instead of trying to call her long distance.
I'd probably get in touch with her sooner. Are you there, operator? Oh, I had her on the line just a moment ago.
Now, if it were her young man she were calling, I'd know why she's so very anxious.
I say, old man, it so happens I am the lady's young man.
Oh, well, I'll have nothing to do with either of you if you don't stop teasing me.
My dear girl, do you really want to get that call through to your sister?
Oh, no, I'm just standing here jiggling this receiver for the exercise. Ajax says it's good for the arm muscles. Operator, will you please answer?
Here, old girl, let me have a try.
Reggie, go away. Don't bother me.
Permit me, milady, to assist you.
No, Reggie.
One side now, one side.
Reggie, this call's important.
Just why I'm so anxious to help you. Now, look here, operator. We've been trying... Huh? What's that? Oh, operator. Yes, into a telephone transmitter, but if... I say now, look here, my girl, if you want...
Give me that receiver.
But, Mandy...
Are you there, operator? Yes, I wish to place a call. We were disconnected. This is Amanda Loveland. Yes, at Lookout Point. That's right, the artist colony. I wish to speak to Miss Grace Loveland, number 12, Garrett Street, London. Yes, that's right. How soon can you get through to London, please? Very well. Will you call me back? Thank you.
There, you see? The damsels always come running when a gentleman calls.
Oh, Reggie, save your humor for some other time, will you?
I say, something wrong, old girl?
I don't know.
Why do you use that tone, darling?
Well, look here, Amanda. Nothing wrong with your sister, is there?
No, it's not that.
But something's wrong. I can tell by the way you've been acting.
Yes, you were certainly never in such a hurry to call Grace before.
I'm anxious to know where she was today.
Where she was?
Yes. She was supposed to be attending a tea party in London, but... Well, I've reason to think she wasn't there.
Well, so suppose she wasn't. Why should that upset you?
Perhaps if I tell you, you'll understand.
Yes. Something's wrong. I certainly want to know about it.
Yes, Amanda, by all means, tell us what's troubling you.
Yes. Yes, I must tell somebody. Reggie, will you please close the door?
Well, certainly, darling.
Now, Amanda, sit here.
No, I'd rather not sit down.
Say, you are upset.
Yes. I had the strangest experience this afternoon.
You did? Where?
In Nano Canyon.
So that's where you were today.
No wonder we couldn't find you. Reg and I wanted you to go up to the falls with us.
I went into the canyon to paint.
We gathered you were off somewhere working. I noticed your equipment wasn't around any place.
You've been there, haven't you, in the canyon?
Oh, not I. I've been planning to go there, though.
Oh, I've been a couple of times.
Why didn't you tell me you were going into Nanaw? I'd have gone along.
There's only one way into the canyon from this end, you know.
Yes, near Flagstone Point. It's 12 miles to the other end.
Well, I arrived at Flagstone Point about noon. So I climbed down the path and picked out a shady spot in the canyon to eat the lunch I'd taken along.
Yes?
After that, I looked around a while and then picked out a scene near the entrance to the canyon.
To paint?
Of course, to paint haze.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, dear.
It was a perfect scene. The light was just right, so I spent most of the afternoon there until the light began to fade.
Did you finish the sketching?
Yes. Filled in a great deal of the color. It was really going to be quite good.
What do you mean, going to be?
I'll never finish it.
Why, dear?
Because I never want to go back there again.
Well, what on earth happened?
Oh, why doesn't that operator get that call through to London?
Amanda, tell us what happened in the canyon.
Yes, for heaven's sake, the suspense.
What happened was like a nightmare.
Darling.
Yes, like a nightmare. Just as I was getting ready to pack up my things, I heard a noise behind me. A low, rumbling noise. And when I looked around, I saw that a side of the canyon was caving in.
My word, landslide?
Yes. The whole side of the canyon was falling away, making a terrific noise about it. Left a sheer vertical cliff there, where it had been sloping before.
Yes?
Right where the only path down into the canyon had been.
You mean you were trapped there in a canyon?
I certainly was. With night coming on. And you know the stories they tell around here about Nanaw Canyon.
Yes, they say the place is simply oozing with ghosts at night.
Oh.
No, really, Reggie. The place does have a reputation.
Oh, I've heard the stories, but you don't want to believe everything you hear, you know.
Well, how on earth did you get out of the canyon, Amanda?
I had a beastly time of it.
Did you get out before dark?
I certainly did not. As soon as I saw that the path was cut off from the land side, I started walking along the side of the canyon, trying to find a way out.
But there are no others.
Didn't I find that out? I walked and walked, and all the time it was growing darker and darker, and finally the sun went down, and a ghostly gloom settled over the canyon. I began to walk faster, but I couldn't find any place that looked like a way out. I've walked for miles. No way out of here. Oh, dear, it's so dark. All I can do is keep walking. Oh, what's that? Oh, some night birds. Yes, that's all. Such a weird sound. I've never heard anything like it before. Kevin, it's gone. That's strange. That bird was the only noise I've heard in this place. No other night noises at all. Good heavens. What's that up there? Light. Shining on a human figure. Am I losing my mind? It's Grace there in the light. Oh, no. Oh, no, it can't be. Grace! Grace! That is Grace standing there in that strange glow of light. Pointing. Gesturing as though trying to show me a path out of here. Yes. Yes, she is directing me out of the canyon. The light. I can see the way out. Grace? Grace, is that you? Is that you, Grace? Oh, no, don't go! Fading. The light's fading away. She's gone. There's still that strange light shining on the way out of this awful place.
to tell us there actually was a path leading up out of that canyon?
How else do you suppose I got back here?
Amazing.
That strange light continued to glow until I found the path and managed to climb up. When I looked back, it was pitch dark in the canyon again.
Amanda, are you certain you didn't dream all of that?
Oh, for heaven's sakes, Reggie.
No, I don't think it was a dream.
Well, what makes you say that?
Oh, but it must be London. Are you there? Yes? Yes, this is Amanda Loveland. Yes, ready for my call to London, thank you. Are you there, Grace? Oh, darling, this is Amanda. Oh, fine, thank you. Darling, have you been in London all day? Oh. Oh, no, nothing's wrong. Oh, no, don't worry, dear. Everything's all right. Yes. I may be coming to London soon. All right, darling. Take care of yourself. Goodbye, dear. Grace has been in London all day.
Surely.
There in the canyon in that strange light, I saw her as plainly as I see you now. But the voice wasn't hers.
Then how are we going to account for what happened?
There is only one way to account for it.
You mean... Hey, you think you know what happened to me?
I think so. You were guided out of that canyon by a swarf.
A what?
A swarf. It's a name commonly applied to a supernatural spirit with the power of impersonating some earthly being.
Impersonating, you say?
Yes, there's no explanation. Except that swarfs have often been seen in these parts. Now, this particular spirit took the earthly shape of your sister and helped you find a way out of your temporary prison.
No, I don't believe such things happen, Hayes.
Well, you'd certainly believe it if you'd experienced it like I did.
Yes, Reggie, you're wrong. Those things do happen. Swarfs do appear in this vicinity.
But that's weird.
Well, it certainly is. See one's sister appear in a place in the darkness and speak in a voice, and then to learn she was actually hundreds of miles away at the time.
Amanda, is this the landscape you were doing?
Oh, yes.
Mind if I have removed the cover and have a look?
Oh, no, go right ahead. Just as I left off, I was packing up.
Here, Hayes. You better let me give you a hand. If you spoil one of Amanda's paints, she'll... I say, look.
Amanda, have you seen this since you left the canyon?
No. No, I told you I haven't.
Look at it. There in the right-hand corner.
A strange, monstrous-looking creature lurking in the shadows.
Amanda, were you conscious of the fact you were painting that fantastic creature into the picture?
No. No, I wasn't. I hadn't even noticed it.
That's very strange.
Yes. Isn't it?
If your perspective is correct, Amanda, that creature is about 8 feet tall.
A huge, fiendish thing.
But how did it ever become a part of my painting?
Yes. How?
Well, we'll find out.
What do you mean, Hayes?
We'll go down into the canyon and have a look.
No, no, not me.
Oh, I mean tomorrow, of course. When it's daylight.
From January 2nd, 1942, Dark Fantasy. You're listening to Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Thank you for tuning in to Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. We continue now with Dark Fantasy, January 2nd, 1942, The Curse of the Neanderthals.
How much farther, Amanda?
We're practically there.
What amazes me is that you couldn't find the way the swarf pointed out to you last night, Amanda.
I'm sorry, Hayes. It doesn't seem to be there today.
Oh, well, what's the difference? Didn't take us long to come in from the other end of the canyon on horseback.
Yes, the only thing that annoys me is that we couldn't ride the animals all the way.
Oh, well, the walking won't hurt you. Besides, we've only been afoot a few hundred yards.
Oh, here we are. This is the spot I was painting. I set up my canvas over there on that little mound.
Then, according to the sketch you made, that fearful creature was lurking about here.
Reggie, look here.
Bones. Human bones. Down there in that crevice.
Oh, I say, those can't be human bones.
No, they're much too large.
I should say so.
You're wrong, both of you. They are human bones. I've studied anatomy enough to recognize the clavicle, humerus and ulna of the human arm, and the femur and fibula of the leg there.
Joe, Hayes is right.
This was some gigantic prehistoric creature. Heaven knows how many years old.
Could this skeleton have any connection with the ghostly figure in my painting?
It could, yes. It's just possible that the spirit of this prehistoric man is himself a swarf.
And can take on a human shape. The spirit, I mean.
Precisely. He saw Amanda sitting there on that mound, painting. He assumed a shape she couldn't make out, but one which her professional brush caught in the sketching.
Then he could have assumed the form of my sister.
If our theory is correct, yes.
That's fantastic.
But how can we learn anything about this thing that was buried here in this crevice?
There's one way I know of. We can consult Dr. Gustav.
By Jove, you're right. Dr. Gustav's staying at the colony.
Well, then let's go get him and bring him here.
Yes, let's. Who knows? We may have discovered something entirely unknown to our civilization.
Well, Dr. Gustav?
Yes. Your suspicions were correct, my friends. These are human bones.
Can you identify them, Doctor?
I most certainly can. This was a Neanderthal man.
Neanderthal? Well, the Neanderthal man existed thousands of years ago.
True, Miss Loveland. From 20 to 40,000 years ago.
There's no mistake about it?
Not the slightest. This is the fossilized remains of an ancient man. Here, look. Look at these peculiarly shaped molar teeth. Now, that's one sign. Every bone of his body shows some distinct markings. Many of them are of simian nature.
Ape-like, you mean?
Exactly. Eyebrow ridges were like those of the gorilla. The roof of the skull was low like theirs. And yet, his brain most probably surpassed the modern Europeans in size and ability.
How long ago did you say he existed?
The date of his culture may be put down tentatively as extending from 40,000 to 20,000 B.C. The Neanderthal man appears to have been the sole occupant of Europe during the middle of the Pleistocene period, throughout the time in which the Mousterian culture prevailed. He buried his dead with great signs of respect. He worked flint implements with great skill. Was a fine hunter. Lived in caves and rock shelters.
But, Doctor, after all this time, his remains should be quite deep in the earth.
I know. And he undoubtedly has been buried deeply through the centuries. But some subterranean disturbance must have caused this crevice and exposed his burial place.
Look. Did you men see this?
What, dear?
A stone tablet.
There's some sort of strange pictures on it.
Let me see, please. Yes, sir. Just so.
What is it, Dr. Gustav?
Why, this is the final proof. This is the picture writing of the Neanderthal man.
Can you decipher it?
I can, indeed. And now, let's see. This portion here, my left, that's indiscernible. But the rest of it reads, "Who moves my bones will surely die as I have died.
A curse.
Yes, a curse. January 2nd, 1945, The Curse of the Neanderthal. Dark Fantasy, the name of the program. The name of this program is Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox, and the conclusion is next. Thank you for tuning in to Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox, an episode of yours truly, Johnny Dollar, up in just a few minutes. But right now, the conclusion of Dark Fantasy, Curse of the Neanderthal, January 2nd, 1942.
Well, then, let's take his advice and leave him alone.
Oh, not on your life, sir.
Hmm?
Why, this is one of the most amazing finds of the century. These bones must be removed to the museum and reconstructed.
But the warning on the stone tablet.
Oh, nonsense. Miss Loveland, nonsense. Do you think a curse can continue to exist through 40,000 years? 400 centuries? Oh, no.
Well, Mandy, this is the museum. Ever been here before?
Once, when I was a child. Uncle Reginald brought me.
How long has it been since the Neanderthal man was brought here?
Oh, at least 6 weeks.
Well, Dr. Gustav said in his letter that the man had been completely reconstructed. The skeleton had been placed in a standing position in a special room.
There's the room, see?
Oh, yes. The sign over the door. The Neanderthal man.
Let's go look before we visit the doctor, shall we?
Right. Here we are. The door was open. Why? But this room is empty.
Yes. But there's a stone base over there. They're saying might have been built up on it.
That's strange.
I beg your pardon.
Yes, what is it?
I am called Banff. Could you direct me to Dr. Gustav's study?
Oh, why, yes. It's at the end of the hall. See, his name is in black letters on that frosted door pane.
Oh, yes. I thank you so very much. Pardon me for having disturbed you.
Reggie.
Amanda, that man, Jove, what a giant. At least 8 feet tall.
Such bushy eyebrows and low forehead. Looked like an ape.
And what was wrong with his neck? He held his head crooked over to one side. One shoulder humped up in a terribly grotesque position.
Did you see whether or not he went into the doctor's office?
No, I didn't.
Reggie, if I didn't know better, I'd think that man was...
Was what, dear?
Oh, nothing.
I know what you're thinking.
That warning, Reggie. Who moves my bones will die as I have died.
Amanda, look.
What?
There in the room, on the stone base, the skeleton of a prehistoric man.
But it wasn't there just a few moments ago.
Good Lord, come on, into the doctor's office.
Dr. Gustav!
Dr. Gustav! Dr. Gustav! Good heavens.
Oh, Reggie. What's happened to him?
He's dead. Broken neck.
He was sitting at his desk,
Writing a report on the Neanderthal man. Look. He just completed one sentence. It is my finding that the death of the Neanderthal man discovered in Nanos Canyon was caused by a broken neck. dark, and escape.
The Curse of the Neanderthal. Another original tale of dark fantasy, written by Scott Bishop. Ben Morris was heard as Reggie, Eleanor Naylor Corrin was Amanda, Murillo Schofield was Hayes, Fred Wayne played Dr. Gustav, and Darrell McAllister was Bannock. Next Friday night at the same time, we'll bring you another story of the fantastic and the unusual, created by Scott Bishop. Listen for Death from the Past, a strange, weird adventure laid in modern America with the flavor of the 19th century. The story of a businessman who was almost too honest and who found a method of paying a long-standing debt of honor, although 30 years in his grave. Dark Fantasy originates in the studios of WKY, Oklahoma City. Tom Paxton speaking. This is the National Broadcasting Company.
From January 2nd, 1942, Dark Fantasy here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Now on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox, we start a brand new Yours Truly Johnny Dollar 5-part story. This first part was originally broadcast January 2nd, 1956. It's entitled The Kaylin Matter.
From Hollywood, it's time now for
Johnny Dollar.
Walt Albright, Johnny, Trinity Mutual Limited.
Oh, hiya, Walt. How's your health?
Terrible, since you ask. I got asthma, Johnny.
Again? I thought we agreed
Yeah,
that...
I know. I get suspicious. I get asthma. Happens every time. Cure me, will you?
What's the case, Walt?
Man named Eddie Caylin, Caylin, out in Los Angeles, died yesterday. $5,000 policy, double indemnity.
What did he die of?
Mysterious circumstances.
Well, that's usually a fatal disease, all right,
That's it, Johnny. That's all I know. Mysterious circumstances. The body was identified by the widow.
I see.
Our salesman out there can probably help you. He issued the policy only 6 weeks ago, at the request of the widow.
Uh-huh.
6 weeks, 1 premium paid, check signed by the widow.
Hey, tell me something. Would the beneficiary happen to be...
That's right, the widow. Oh, this asthma's killing me, Johnny. You gotta do something about it.
All right, Walt. Just call me doctor.
Tonight and every weekday night, Bob Bailey in the transcribed adventures of the man with the action-packed expense account, America's fabulous freelance insurance investigator.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar. Expense account submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar to the Home Office, Trinity Mutual Insurance Company Limited, Hartford, Connecticut. The following is an accounting of expenditures during my investigation of the Kaylin matter. Item 1, $198.20, airline fare and incidentals, Hartford to Los Angeles. I hadn't arranged for anybody to meet me when I arrived at L.A., so I picked up my bags and headed for the taxi stand.
Mr. Dollar, please. Wait a second.
He was a small man, nervous and fluttery, with a shiny pink nose and a face like a little white rabbit.
I was watching for you out on the ramp, but somehow you must have slipped by. You are Mr. Dollar, aren't you?
Yes, I'm Johnny Dollar, but I don't think I...
Welch. Presley Welch. I'm the...
Oh, yes, you're the district salesman here for Trinity Mutual.
That's right.
Well, how are you, Mr. Welch?
I'm out of breath at the moment. From running, you understand. You see, I'm troubled occasionally by asthma.
You too?
Oh, do you have asthma, Mr. Dollar?
No, it's a friend of mine in Hartford.
Oh, in Hartford? Oh, well, you don't say.
Yes, in fact, I came out here just to cure it for him.
Out here? Oh, this is the worst place you could have come. Oh, you see, the smog here is so bad. Oh, now, I do believe you're joshing.
I guess I am at that. Come on, let's add to my expense account with a cup of coffee.
Oh, do you really think we should?
Oh, why not? Let's be daring.
All right, let's. I always say if the company can't afford it, come on.
If Presley Wells sold insurance the way he answered questions. It was amazing that he hadn't starved to death years ago. He skidded around the field, flip-flopped overhead, and buzzed the tower, all verbally, of course, and for 15 minutes he didn't touch a wheel to the ground. But when he did finally land, he came in with a swoop.
I do hope you'll accept my apologies, Mr. Dollar, for causing all this trouble, because the whole thing is my fault, of course.
Oh, I don't see how. Unless you murdered Eddie Caylin.
Why, I scarcely knew him.
A perfect alibi.
Oh, no. You misunderstand.
Well, I'm just joshing.
What I meant was, I wrote the policy, and I knew better right when I did it.
Oh? What do you mean?
Well, Mr. Caylin was quite facetious about the whole procedure. When I tried to point out the retirement security factors in our multiple endowment plan, he actually laughed.
You don't say.
Yes. He said all the security he'd asked for was 2 aces up and 1 for the kicker.
Well, what about Mrs. Caylin? What was her attitude?
Well, she was quite serious about it.
Wasn't she the one who actually applied for the policy?
Well, not technically. The beneficiary can't, you know. It's against the rules.
Yeah, I know, but didn't she...
Well, she was the one, yes, that called me and asked me to come out and talk to her husband, and he finally signed the application, but he seemed to regard it as a joke. He only did it as a favor to her, something of that sort.
And now it's turned out to be a $10,000 favor. What kind of a woman is she, Mr. Welch?
Well, she's quiet, well-mannered, quite charming, I thought. I must confess I felt a good deal of sympathy for her, in view of her husband's incessant flippancies.
A real happy fellow, huh?
Oh, positively frivolous, Mr. Dollar. And I should have been warned by his attitude. You know, insurance is a serious business.
Oh, sure. But Eddie Caylin didn't laugh himself to death.
Oh, my. Oh, he died in the fire when his automobile caught fire. Laugh. Oh, I see what you mean.
Say, tell me, how well did you get to know the Caylins, Mr. Welch?
Oh, hardly at all. I saw Mr. Caylin twice, once at his apartment the evening I sold him the policy, and then 2 weeks later at my office when he came in to sign the paper.
And Mrs. Caylin?
Only once, that evening at their apartment. She phoned me earlier in the week.
And you haven't seen her since her husband's death, huh?
No. I phoned to express my sympathy, but she wasn't available.
She hasn't filed a claim yet.
No, but I knew she would, so I took it on myself to notify Hartford. I just can't help feeling guilty about this, you know.
Yes, so you mentioned.
Not that I really am, of course, but, well, you understand. It's
Oh, sure, I understand. Well, I'll keep in touch. Watch out for comedians, Mr. Welch.
Watch out for whom? Oh, comedians, watch out.
Expense account item 3, $6.35. Taxi fare to the Beverly Wilshire Hotel, and a second taxi to the West Los Angeles Precinct Police Station. The case wasn't being handled by any of the usual departments, Bureau of Homicide, Missing Persons, and so on. The man in charge was Detective Sergeant Jose Reynosa, unattached, working out of the Central District on special assignment.
Pull up a chair, Mr. Dollar.
When I talked with him in his office, Reynosa told me the reason for it.
Yeah, it's a funny deal, Mr. Dollar. The facts in the case could point a lot of different ways. But the way it stands right now, they just don't add up in any direction. At least not quite.
Do you mind filling me in on some of those facts, Sergeant?
I'll be glad to. Last Thursday morning at 4:20 a.m., we got a call relayed through the fire department to investigate a burned automobile out on the Palos Verdes headland, up in the hills above the harbor. The car was lying in the bottom of a ravine below the road, and it was a total loss. Apparently, the gas tank had burst and flooded the whole interior.
Oh, what do you mean, apparently?
Well, the upholstery may have been deliberately soaked with gas. The arson squad isn't sure.
I see.
That's why this case doesn't quite fit into any niche, Mr. Dollar. It might be homicide, might be arson, missing person, or only an accident. We're not sure yet. Anyway, there was a body in the driver's seat, burned to a cinder, unrecognizable. But we did recover a few personal effects. A signet ring, keychain, wristwatch with the strap burned off, a wallet, badly scorched.
I noticed the keychain has a metal tag with the address stamped on it.
Yeah, that and a part of the driver's license were the only leads. Eddie Caylin, Argus Terrace Apartments up on Sunnyway Drive above the Strip. So we went up there and we ran into a second surprise.
What do you mean?
Nobody home. We attained access, found the place in a mess. There'd apparently been a fight, a chair and a couple of lamps were broken, and there were bloodstains in the living room.
What about Mrs. Caylin?
Located her the next afternoon. She'd been spending a few days at a friend's cabin up at Arrowhead.
Does the friend confirm it?
She was there alone, had her own car. Yeah, she might have come back to town that night, but we got nothing to prove it.
Or disprove it.
Right. Just another one of those maybes. That's all this case is, a collection of maybes.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Tell me, Sergeant, just who was Eddie Caylin?
Eddie Kaylin, male, Caucasian, height 5'11", weight 175, complexion olive, hair medium brown, eyes gray, age 34, birthplace Chicago.
What was he? What did he do?
He called himself a promoter. Done a lot of things. Small-time agent for a while, handled few singers and dancers, vaudeville and nightclubs. Been a bookie off and on, but mainly he was a gambler. Oh, and there's another maybe for you.
Now, how's that?
According to rumor, Eddie was in an all-day poker game. It broke up only a few hours before we found the car. The game was supposedly run by a big-time gambler named Topo Leanley. And the word has it that Eddie cleaned up something over $60,000.
And there was no money found on the body?
Nope.
Have you talked to this Topo?
Sternly. We had him in here for 4 hours this morning. He never heard of Eddie Kaylin. Wouldn't know a poker deck if he saw one. Spends all his spare time raising petunias and driving his dear old mother to church.
Like that, huh?
Like that. So there's another one for you. Maybe Topo didn't like the idea of losing $60,000, decided to get it back. Or maybe the widow wanted the insurance, or it could be that somebody else took a crack at him.
And it's possible, of course, that Eddie mailed the $60,000 to a blonde in Milwaukee and just ran off the road by accident.
Yeah, it's possible. But I don't think so. I don't think it was an accident. I'm always getting cases like this. It's the kind they always put me on. Officially, it's because I'm a college man and majored in criminology, but actually, it's because I'm a Latin, Mexican ancestry, and they know I get certain feelings about a case, hunches.
Oh? And how do you feel about this one?
It's hokey. Real hokey. And it's murder, not an accident. But beyond that, quien sabe. Why don't you poke into it a little, see what you can find? Then maybe we can talk it out some more over a bottle of Muscatel.
Yeah, good idea. Where can I find Mrs. Kaylin?
Oh, the widow? Well, that's a good starting point. She's out at their apartment. There's the address.
Okay, thanks. Oh, just one other thing, Sergeant Reynosa. When you gained access to the apartment, I assume the door was locked.
Yeah, it took a little effort.
Oh, what kind of a lock? Automatic night latch? Spring cylinder?
No, it was an old-fashioned Warden bolt.
Had to be locked with a key.
Mm-hmm. What are you getting at, Mr. Dollar?
Oh, a hunch of my own, Sergeant. Let's save it for the Muscatel. See you later. Expense account item 4, $2. Taxi to the Kaylin apartment in West Hollywood. It was shortly after dusk by now, and the lights were coming on all over the city. It was a cool, clear night. Los Angeles at its best. As we swung off the Sunset Strip and started climbing up into the hills, I looked back across the basin toward the dark mass of the Palos Verdes headland that bounded the far side of the great carpet of lights. 3 nights ago, a man had died over there in the darkness. And in a few minutes now, I'd be talking to his widow. Or at least to the woman who claimed to be his widow. Keep the change. The Argus Terrace apartments, like most of them in that section, sprawled up the hillside above the street. 6 or 8 apartments on as many different levels, all opening onto a central patio filled with walks, steps, and banks of tropical plantings. The Kaylin's apartment was at the top, and I was still 50 feet from it when the door opened and a man came out and hurried toward me. I stepped back against the shrubbery and waited for him. Good evening, Mr. Welch.
Oh, my. Oh, it's you.
Your second visit to Mrs. Kaylin?
Second? Oh, yes, it is. I imagine you've been notified, too.
Notified?
Well, yes. I got a wire from the Home Office in Hartford this evening. That's why I'm here. Well, Mrs. Kaylin has filed under the double indemnity clause of the policy a claim for $10,000.
She has, huh?
She hopes it can be paid immediately and without any trouble.
Well, I don't like to dash a lady's hopes, Mr. Welch, but I've got news for the widow.
News?
The claim won't be paid immediately. And before this is over, there's going to be a lot of trouble.
Oh?
In fact, Mr. Welch, if my hunch is right, this claim is not going to be paid at all.
Now, here's our star to tell you about tomorrow's intriguing episode of this week's story.
Tomorrow, a lovely girl lies, cries, crosses her heart, and hopes to die. And a killer fires from the dark. Join us, won't you? Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
truly, Johnny Dollar, starring Bob Bailey, is transcribed in Hollywood. Written by Les Crutchfield, it is produced and directed by Jack Johnstone. Be sure to join us tomorrow night, same time and station, for the next exciting episode of Yours truly, Johnny Dollar. Roy Rowan speaking.
This one is very, very suspicious. January 2nd, 1956, yours truly, Johnny Dollar, here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Visit my webpage, classicradio.stream, where you can stream our shows on demand, learn about building a classic radio collection of your own, and you can also contact me there. You can buy me a copy to help us acquire additional classic radio collections. That's at classicradio.stream. Thank this station, support their advertisers, tell your friends the great radio shows are right here at this spot on the dial. Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox on your favorite radio station.